Search AutoTrader.
If you are in the market for a compact SUV, a crossover, and you have about R500,000 to spend, you may be considering one of these. Either the Kia Sonet or the Haval Jolion Pro. But how do they stack up and how do they compare? Well, let's find out. When we're shopping for cars, we generally pick a body style that we're looking for, and then our budget dictates the rest. These are very similarly priced, despite the fact that the Jolion is the larger of the two and falls into a different segment. The Kia Sonet in SX trim is going to cost you 485,000 Rand. The Jolion, on the other hand, is only 11,000 Rand more expensive, coming in at 496,000 Rand. But we've parked them tail to tail there, and you can see that the Jolion is a slightly longer vehicle, which leads you to believe that for your 11,000 Rand, you're getting a lot more vehicle. That is both true and false, and we're going to explain why. Both of these vehicles are powered by a 1.5-litre engine. The Jolion benefits from a turbocharger though, whereas the Kia has to make do without. So, turbocharged? Not turbocharged. In the Jolion, you are going to get 130 kilowatts, and you're going to get 270 Newton meters of torque. This will give you what Haval claims is an average combined cycle fuel consumption of 7.5 litres per 100, and they're not far off of it, trust us. The Kia, on the other hand, has to make do with just a little more than half of that power, 85 kilowatts and only 144 Newton meters of torque. But the benefit there comes in the fuel savings, where Kia says that you can expect an average of 6.2 litres per 100 kilometers. Standard equipment on the Kia Sonet SX is rather high. You get a set of 16-inch alloy wheels, and when you climb inside, you're greeted by two 10.25-inch screens, one for the driver display and one for the infotainment, a touchscreen unit that has Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. It has digital climate control, but only a single zone. There is wireless charging and a couple of USB outlets in both USB-A and USB-C. You also get this leatherette upholstery. It's on the seats, steering wheel, and here on the gear selector. But these seats aren't heated. You don't get that in the SX trim. You do get automatic headlights, but you don't get automatic wipers. There is a reverse camera, but no surround view camera. And it's also missing a sunroof. And that's a rather large omission on this top-of-the-range model. Carrying on with the space and practicality, the rear space in the Kia Sonet is actually pleasantly surprising. There's a generous amount of leg room here, and the headroom is actually rather generous. So for individuals a little taller than myself, I think you could sit here relatively comfortable. But only two of you, it's going to be a bit of a pinch with three because the shoulder room is a little bit compromised. Practicality-wise, you do get air vents, there's some lovely pockets in the seats here, and USB-C outlets to keep your devices charged. The boot space is also generous, with 385 litres of boot space back here, expandable of course when you fold these rear seats forward. That's quite substantial. I'd hazard to say that that's almost class-leading. On the safety front, the Kia Sonet is going to offer you 6 airbags, the usual array of ABS with electronic brake force distribution, EBD, and then you get advanced driver assistance systems, and that's a package that includes things like blind spot monitoring, lane departure warning, lane keep assist, and automatic emergency braking. The Jolion Pro S rolls around on a slightly larger set of 18-inch alloy wheels and tyres, but when you climb inside, it feels a little more premium. You see, there's raised stitching and softer touch materials in more of the places, and that really does elevate things a little bit. It has leather upholstery, and the seats in front, for both the driver and the passenger, are electric, and they have heating and ventilation. And that's rather cool. You do get 2 screens. There's a 7-inch screen for the driver display, and you get a heads-up display. There's also a 12.3-inch infotainment system here with Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, but using it is a little bit fiddly. There's digital climate control and it's dual zone, so 2 separate temperatures for either side of the car. You are going to get a wireless charging pad, and USB outlets for both USB-A and USB-C. It has automatic lights, but then it also has automatic wipers. But I think the one that you're most interested in is the item that comes stock standard, the tilt and slide panoramic sunroof. Okay, wow, this is a stark contrast. This is what you pay for. Chinese vehicles love giving you rear legroom, and there's tons of it here. There really is. There's massive amounts. But while you've got legroom here, the headroom feels a little compromised. There are these divots in the roof to ensure that there's clearance, but I think some tall individuals may still struggle a bit. That said, it does feel like you could fit 3 individuals, adult individuals, here on the rear seat, at least for short distances. It's somewhat convenient. You've got USB outlets, 2 USB-A outlets here, air vents, a little bit of storage there and in the backs of the seats, and cup holders down in the door cards. But this legroom comes at a bit of a price, and the price that you pay is over there. It's in the boot. It is only 291 litres. That's nearly 100 litres less than that Sonet. The Jolion Pro S is pretty safe as well, and it gives you a host of safety systems. So on top of the usual array of ABS and EBD and traction control and the likes, you're going to get 6 airbags and an advanced driver assistance system. So that is your blind spot monitoring, lane departure warning, lane keep assist, automatic emergency braking, rear cross traffic alert, and it gives you a 360-degree surround view camera as well, which is rather nice. And then we get down to what they're like to drive. And we're going to start with the Kia Sonet. And I tell you what, it's a very, very agreeable little package. I think this shows a very mature, experienced vehicle manufacturer. It is a small, compact little vehicle. So it's easy to get in and out of traffic and position on the road, and parking it is really, really easy. I also like the weighting of the controls. The brakes feel nice and progressive. The throttle response is good. And the steering, while a little bit firm at times, isn't too heavy. It's got a nice weight. It lets you know what the front wheels are doing. The Sonet sends the power to the front wheels through a CVT gearbox. And while many people may scoff at that, if you drive it the way it's intended, in other words, you're not trying to be the next Max Verstappen, it's actually very agreeable. And it's pretty light on fuel too. So you're not going to sit there with a snatchy gear change. And it's not going to feel like it's out of boost at any point in time because, well, boost never comes in. It's naturally aspirated. There's no turbo. Could it do with a little more power? Yes, it possibly could. And that's going to bring me on to 3 little niggles that I've got with the Kia Sonet SX. The first one is that omission of a sunroof. Now, that's not a big deal for me, but for many South Africans it is. And on the top of the range model, you're kind of expecting it. The second one is the seats. They're great for me, but I'm a little bit on the smaller side. And I feel that somebody that's possibly a little bit larger is going to find them a little tight in the sides and possibly not have enough support down by the legs. The third one is the tires. I don't know what brand tire this is. I've never heard of it before. And it's a little bit suspect when a big brand like Kia, who's charging nearly R500,000 for this car, fits a no-name brand tire. That's a little suspect. But as a whole, it's very enjoyable to drive. It's pretty quiet, it's rather comfortable, and it does what you need it to. It's not offensive, and there's nothing that really jumps off the page and says, well, you're going to have a bad time behind the wheel. No, on the contrary. It's very, very nice to drive. And then we move on to the Haval Jolion Pro S. And instantly it feels like more vehicle, like a more substantial vehicle. It actually does feel like it is a class up and a segment up from the Sonet, which it is. So you're expecting that. There's a little more weight, there's a little more size. It just feels a little more grown up. And it does. Controls feel good for the most part, but this here is my problem. We're going to bring it down to a stop here. You see, the Jolion Pro S is powered by a 1.5-litre turbocharged engine, as I've mentioned, but it sends power to the front wheels through a 7-speed dual-clutch gearbox. And dual-clutch gearboxes sometimes work and sometimes don't. Other times they tend to be a little snatchy, and that is the case here with the Jolion Pro S. If you're very patient with it, then it'll be nice and smooth. But as soon as you try and gap an intersection or overtake or make any sort of abrupt maneuver that requires a bit of throttle input, you're going to catch it out. And then you're going to find the engine is out of boost and it's going to be a little bit laggy and it's not going to be as enjoyable or as linear to drive as what you may be expecting. And this sours what is otherwise a rather enjoyable driving experience. I do like the fact that the Jolion Pro, especially because of how affordable it seems in its segment, is still fitted with name brand tires. It's fitted with Kumho tires, which are a very respected tire manufacturer. And I'm going to go into a few more pain points here, as I did with that Kia. First one, that gearbox. The second one is the infotainment system. It's not quite out of the woods yet, and the user experience isn't as polished as what it could be. You can see that it's designed for the left-hand market, because if you want to adjust the volume, you have to swipe from the left-hand side, which, look at this, that's a full swipe from the far side of the screen. You ideally want all your controls around here. You don't want to have to reach across the car to do things like that. I've also found the Apple CarPlay to be a little buggy at times. So it's not quite out of the woods just yet. It could be more polished there. And then, of course, these heating and ventilation controls. You can change the fan speed and switch the aircon on and off, but adjusting the temperature means going into a menu, and that's a little less convenient. So, would I choose the Kia or the Haval? It's a really tough choice. It really is. Both of them have their pros, and they both have their cons. The Kia feels a little bit expensive for what you're getting. The Jolion seems like value for money. But then the Jolion doesn't drive as nice as the Kia. And Kia also has more space. But the Jolion has more creature convenience and tech. It really is a tough one, and I think it's really down to you as to where you place emphasis on a vehicle. Is it in the convenience features? Is it in the practicality? Or is it in the way that it drives that will sway your decision whether to go for the Kia Sonet or the Haval Jolion Pro? I want to thank you very much for watching this video. If you have enjoyed it, please do subscribe to the channel and leave a comment below, because we'd love to hear your thoughts on how these two compare. Let us know which vehicles you would like to see us compare in the future, and we may just bring it your way.
Search AutoTrader.